Welcome to Sportsnet's Digital Studios. My name is Amit, Mann, here to catch you up on everything to do with Paris 2024 and Canada basketball. And the women's team, they went into their final group stage game, and they knew that they either had to win by 26 or win by 10 or more and hope that France beats Australia. And unfortunately, things did not go according to plan, right? Because they lost to Nigeria 79-70. Looking at the game story, and a lot of the issues were similar to other things that we've seen throughout this tournament. Costly turnovers, 26. Holy smokes, that's a lot of turnovers. Hard to win those kind of games when you have that many turnovers, but also on the other side of things, too many missed shots. 2-point range, 3-point range. It was a lot. There were a lot of open looks. Kia Nurse has struggled throughout the tournament, and today she struggled again. There was a lot of missed layups, man. Like, you just can't miss that many shots, essentially. But Gilgeous-Alexander, she was one of the lone people that was able to at least produce on the offensive side of things. 12 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. But even for her, she probably could have made more shots. She could have ended up around 20 points, 8 rebounds, 9 rebounds, more assists. It just did not go according to plan for Canada, Gilgeous-Alexander and company. And now, coming off of Tokyo Olympics, as we have talked about, they missed the quarterfinals by just 3 points. And they probably wanted to improve on that. And throughout this tournament, it's just too many missed shots. Offensively, they have not been up to caliber of where they need to be to at least make it to the quarterfinals. Kia Nurse, she was not herself. A lot of missed shots for her. Even in her WNBA season, she was averaging 30% from three. In this tournament, she was below that. And a lot of missed shots, man. That's kind of what it is. Shea Colley, she was pretty good today, but she also had 11 turnovers. Bridget Carlton, she was probably looked at as the number one scorer, the number one option for the team, and she had moments where she looked like that, but a lot of moments where she did not. This is a recalibration for the women's program. Kind of in the moments that they actually look like a decent team. It was Silas Swords on the court. It was Aaliyah Edwards, Letitia Amy-Her. That is their future. That's what they're going to be looking at going forward with the program. Kia Nurse, he probably won't be there for the next one. Natalie Achanwa, a great Olympian. This was her 4th. She probably won't be back with the team. So, yeah, bit of a looking in the mirror kind of moment for the team and for the franchise. They need more talent. Right, and they got to develop, they got to commit themselves to doing that, and we'll have to see where things go, right? But their Olympics is over, unfortunately, a little bit earlier than they probably wanted to. But moving on to the men who did make the quarterfinals, and they will face home nation France in the quarters. The winner of that will face Germany. The winner of that goes off to the gold medal game, potentially against the U.S. The good part is they avoided the U.S. side, the U.S. bracket, and that's a good thing for them. But looking at France specifically, a very odd team. Very, very odd team. So, as we know, they were embarrassed by Germany a few days ago. And after the game, Evan Fournier said this, and I quote, "These days, the best defense is offense. It's no longer the game of the 1990s or 2000s where you could defend half court. Offense is essential. Also, I think we lack fundamentals." Wow. Okay, Evan. His coach, in response, Colette Vincent, said those comments were regrettable and unacceptable, and he thought the game plan was pretty good, and he believes everyone aside from Evan is believing in that. But also just sticking on Coach Vincent, he's got interesting philosophy. A couple of things that have stood out to me is that he will go extended stretches of games with Wemby and Gobert off the floor. Why would you do that? I don't know. But Rudy Gobert, not playing as much as you would think, right? I think they're realizing some of the limitations with having both those guys on the floor. You could lean into it, but they don't decide to do that. They decide to play a 5-out system, 4-out. In some cases, they could run some high-low between Rudy and Gobert. You got two of the tallest guys on the court, but they don't do that, right? And so sometimes Rudy's playing like 18 minutes, 19 minutes. Evan Fournier, he's playing minutes in the teens sometimes, but sometimes it's in the 30s. It's very strange. There's very little consistency. And even in that Germany game, they started the second half with Nick Batum and Rudy Gobert off the floor. It was Matthias Lesort and Bilal Coulibaly, 7th pick in the 2023 draft. He's on the Wizards. They started the second half. So there's a lot of confusion, right? And I think the players feel that. I think the franchise or the country, the team feels that. And they're going into this quarterfinal game where, they're the home nation. They're going to have everyone behind them. It's going to be a ruckus crowd. The crowd's been great so far. But I can't really say that they should feel like they're the favorite or that they should have a lot of confidence going against Canada, such a stifling defensive team. But what they do have is Victor Wembanyama, okay? Victor Wembanyama, 3 games so far, 17 points, 10.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2.7 steals, and 2 blocks. He's shooting 33% from 3, which is comparable to the number that he had with the Spurs, around 5.5 attempts. He spends a lot of time on the perimeter. And as I said earlier, that's a choice. That's how it goes. Sometimes he is playing center, and that's where you might see a bit more creativity and a bit more different court mapping, different shot selection. But that is what it is. It's a lot of shots from the perimeter. And for Canada, they're going to use Dillon Brooks against Victor. But they've also shown that they're comfortable switching RJ onto him, switching Dwight Powell, of course, onto him, switching Lou Dort, whoever the case is. They're willing to do that. But the point is that they got to be very physical with Victor, right? Daniel Theis had a field day with Germany in that Germany-France game against Victor because of his physicality. He didn't foul. He pushed him out. And that put Victor into a bit of a compromising spot. And Canada can do that against Victor as well. But they got to stay out of foul trouble, obviously, and I'll get to more of that in a moment. And they may not have like the 7-footers, the traditional 7-footers, but they have some of the best defenders in this tournament. And if you get into the chest of Victor, obviously you're allowed a little more hand checking in international basketball. If they do that, they should be in decent shape, right, to stop Victor. And aside from Victor, well, I mean, France is good, but they're not great. And so that kind of starts with, if you want to stop France, you got to stop Victor. And that's kind of the crux of this thing. But going off of Victor and looking at the rest of the team, I guess we should start with Rudy Gobert. So offensively, we kind of know his limitations, right? You make him put the ball on the floor and he will make errors. We've seen it in the NBA. We're seeing it in international basketball. Sometimes he will hit a ridiculous fadeaway like he did against the Denver Nuggets in Game 7, and I hope I never see that ever again, specifically in the quarterfinals. But, yeah, if it's dunks, that's fine. But you cannot bite on a pump fake. If you bite on a pump fake, I'm looking at you, Dwight Powell, you are benched, according to me. You're benched. Don't bite. All we want to see is dunks from him. That's all. Defensively, they want to keep him towards the basket on the French side. And even if it's Victor and Rudy on the court together, you'll see switching, right, to avoid Victor being like the 5-man, being the rim protector, because they want Rudy to be that person. Again, a very weird decision, but they're doing that. So obviously with some of the pick and roll coverages, he's usually up to touch, right? He'll get pretty far out onto the perimeter, but then aside from that, he's backing up. So that's something that Canada is going to have to watch out for. A few occasions in the exhibition game, he had a field day, and not in a good way, against gilgeous-alexander on some of those pick and roll switches, which we'll get to in a second. But aside from Victor, aside from Rudy Gobert, they got Gershon Babusele. He's a big forward. He comes off their bench. He's physical. He likes to post up. That's something to watch for. Matthew Strazel, he is quick, twitchy, aggressive point guard. He will get into whoever is the ball handler. He does have some speed. He does have some hands, like he's able to penetrate and get into the paint, and he's able to, a soft touch around the basket. That's going to be valuable for him. As I mentioned earlier, Evan Fournier, he's a microwave scorer. He's got like that international FIBA Fournier kind of style to him, where he's able to put up a lot of buckets really fast. I say Cordonier, it's got some bunnies, very, very fast. He's sometimes a ball handler, sometimes not, but he can cause some issues, right, for Canada, especially with whoever he's being guarded by, and also on the other side of things, on the defensive side. Nick Batum, he shot very well in FIBA, very well in the NBA, and he's shooting very well from here. He's a great floor spacer, and that's predominantly how he's being used here. Very few times you'll see plays run for him, but he's able to convert his shots. And Bilal Coulibaly, who I mentioned earlier, tough defender. 3-point shot is kind of all right, but that's kind of where things are with the French side, is that they have some good players, but this is a team that Canada can cause problems for. Looking at some of the numbers here, where the advantages are for the French side, offensive rebounding, they shoot a bit better from 3, 37% compared to Canada's 33. Shot blocking, of course, is better, and but Canada gets to the free throw line a lot more, and that's going to be a lot of how they're able to generate some easy points. They foul a similar rate, but Canada makes more free throws, and they get to the line more, so that's something to watch out for. Defensively, I think Canada, they have to stay really disciplined with their game plan. defend for full possessions, and they got to be aggressive at the point of attack because they can bother these France guards. And I'm looking at Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Andrew Nembhard, Shea, sometimes he's on ball, Lou Dort, of course. Welcome anyone you want to the torture chamber, okay, because they can cause a lot of problems for those guys. And the more you push them away from the basket, as soon as they get off past half court, right, like not even that, as soon as they inbound the ball, there should be some Canadian on a point guard, right? And I believe they will get a few good opportunities out of that. And looking at the rest of kind of the defensive scheme, I mean, they need to defensive rebound. As I said earlier, the offensive rebounding side of things for France is very, very good. So it's a lot of gang rebounding, and I would imagine probably transition is going to be sacrificed just a little bit just to make sure they can generate some tap outs and they can get loose balls. You don't want to lose those 50-50 balls. Those kind of like really collect, and all of a sudden now maybe another team has like 4 or 5 more possessions than you, and that can decide a game. But as a whole for Canada, they have to avoid fouling, right? They are one of the more fouling prone teams so far in the tournament, and that is due to their hyper aggressive style of defense, and that is part of what makes them so effective too. But they got to avoid that. Even just getting in the bonus, like you don't want to give a team that's struggling offensively easy points at the basket or just free throws. Like you're just giving them that, and that's not good for Canada, right? So looking at the keys as a whole, it's how you guard Victor. It's offensive rebounding or defensive rebounding, at least for the Canadian case. Point of attack defense. Obviously, you got to be smarter in your switches and your callouts and so forth. But I think Canada's in a decent spot to win this game. And a big part of that, if they do avoid fouling, is their starting group, which, according to Josh Sue, who is of the Canadian Olympic Committee, their starters have outscored opponents by 39 points in 25 minutes through 3 games. They've held them to 21.4%, 9 of 42 shooting from the field. That group is dominant, right? We can say that now. They have a lot of complementary pieces. They have their head of the snake, obviously, is Shea. Dwight Powell does a great job as a rim protector in his own way. Lou Dort, Dylan Brooks are problems on anyone that they're guarding. And RJ Barrett, he's their leading scorer. He's averaging 21 points per game. That is how I felt like this should go, because there's going to be so much attention on Shea. RJ, he's going to have opportunities everywhere to get buckets. And fortunately for him and fortunately for Canada, he is converting. So I think they need all those guys to be on the court as much as possible. And let's get into some of the specific keys for all these key players. And let's start with Shea. It's not news what we need from him. We need him to be the best player on the court. And that's what his MO is. That's what he wants to be. And they need him to be a shot maker. There is no one on France that can guard you, sir. No one can guard you. Okay? So we got to show that. And when they trap you, when they double you, right, you make the smart kick-out pass, and that's going to be what they need from him. If this game is close down the stretch, then Shea, go do your thing, right? They got to make sure they can get the ball to Shea in the spots that he wants the ball, and Jordy's been terrific at that throughout the tournament, and even going back to the qualifiers last year. He's been great at that. And Shea has a lot of spots where he's comfortable too, so that helps as well. Lou Dort, offensive rebounds, tap outs, those are always helpful. He does a great job of that, of just seeing judging the trajectory of the ball and just like finding a way to generate a tap out or to get his hands on it, and that's able to get Canada another opportunity. And as I said earlier, come one, come all. Torture chamber, come on over, right? He's been so good defensively. He's caused so many issues for everyone that he has to guard. Again, just more of it. More of that, and I think Canada's going to be in a good spot to win this game. Also, RJ Barrett, as I mentioned earlier, the cut's got to be timely. Get to the basket off pin downs, convert on your corner threes, on your threes overall, free throws, make them. He's been so good in this tournament, man. It's such a delight to see it. He's like that secondary option that Canada didn't necessarily have during the qualifiers. Like Shea is their guy, but they needed that consistent source of offense. He's been very good, but he also has to be maybe a one-man transition. As I said earlier, defensive rebound is going to be really important for Canada, but they will allow someone to leak out. So sometimes, it's going to just take RJ. It's a hit-ahead pass, and he's got the ball at half court, and now he just has to run. He's got to run. He's got to be really smart with when he decides to, penetrate the paint and to get to the basket and to try and get himself a layup. But navigate those numbers, look at the advantages, and if you got to pull out, then pull out. But also, look to attack Rudy Gobert, attack Victor Wembanyama, attack the chest, and just play with confidence, right? That's going to be really important for RJ, and I think hopefully we see the best version of him. Dylan Brooks, He's going to be the person guarding Victor Wembanyama. Stay on the court, please. Just stay on the court. Live with Victor shooting a fadeaway contested 3 or fadeaway long 2 or whatever the case is. Like, live with it. It's okay. They need you on the court. Whatever they get from him offensively is going to be, it's going to be awesome, but they need him to be on the court because he is such a positive when he is on the floor along with Lou Dort. So please just stay on the court. And offensively, like some second side drives would be great. Some pull-up 2s would be awesome. Transition 3s. I love all of it. But right now it's him staying on the court because he does create for Canada on both sides. Dwight Powell, just like finish strong in the restricted area. He'll have some opportunities around the basket, and that'll be helpful for Canada. But one thing I actually am thinking about is like Shea is going to be the primary ball handler, especially during some of like those crunch time minutes. And I wouldn't be surprised if France decides to, double, to trap him on some of those pick and rolls. And in some of those exhibition games, when that has happened, Shea has counted on Dwight to make the the smart pass. Like it's a little pocket pass, and then you got Dwight Powell with the ball around the 3-point line area. And now when you are in that position, you do have numbers. It's a 4-on-3, and he's got to make smart decisions out of that. Quick decisions as well. But he's shown an ability to do that in the NBA and also at the FIBA level. I have confidence that he'll be able to do it. And he's another person that has to stay on the court, right? He is their biggest player. Even though he's not a 7-footer, he is their biggest player. He does all the dirty work. He does a lot of small details that are important to winning. So please stay on the court too. The bench pieces. All right. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker hasn't had a great tournament from 3. That's been a bit of a problem for him. A lot of missed opportunities, a lot of missed shots. And he was really good in the qualifier, but it has not been the case for them. But a lot of these bench guys, like I'm looking at for this unit to finally find a groove and to start outscoring their opponent. Now, the French side, they have had some strong bench production, but as I said earlier, they've had so many guys cycling in and out of their starting lineup that, maybe sometimes their bench units have been a little bit better and they're outscoring teams. But he's got to be great offensively and also just be a menace on the point of attack. You can get to these French guards, right? If you pick him up early, and he's done a great job of that at a few different occasions, getting some of those, staying in front, getting really skinny around screens, and just tapping the ball away and going the distance for a layup or having someone else do that, right? They need more of that. Jamal Murray, he's been a bit of a topic, obviously. He's shooting 10% from 3. That can't continue forever, right? Jordi Fernandez has said a few days ago, he said it, that he feels like the best games are yet to come for him and that when they need him most, he will be there. Well, we've arrived, Jamal. We've arrived. He is moving better. However you want to look at it, he is moving a lot better than he was earlier on. And I think we just got to hope that it kind of turns, right? Like if he's actually playing well, if he's hitting some of those threes, like he's shooting 10% from 3. This is Jamal Murray, right? He is moving better. Laterally, it's a lot better. Defensively, it's still a little bit Like I'm very curious what happens with the Denver Nuggets after this because they got a lot of faith in Jamal to be like the guy, right? He's got a contract thing coming up as well. Anyways, if he's scoring, it tilts things for Canada. And so if he's able to, produce and to provide some stable production, we haven't really seen too much of that 1-2 punch, Jamal Murray, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander combination that we were expecting to see coming into the Olympics. We've seen a little bit, but it also hasn't been very potent. I would love to see that in this game. Andrew Nembhard, probably their most reliable bench piece. He was so good in their previous game against Spain. He might have been one of the biggest reasons why they won that. I would love to see him just continue to do what he's doing, right? Those floaters, especially against like a Victor and a Rudy Gobert, are going to be vital. If he gets like 8 points off of those, that's awesome. He's shown a bit of ability to have a bit of a quick trigger. That could be very beneficial too, but just consistency, point of attack defense, of course, being aggressive. And I think we'll hopefully see the best version of Andrew Nembhard coming down to this game. Okay, last few guys, Kelly Olynyk and Kem Birch, they're backup bigs. We haven't seen Canada do too much of the double big thing, but considering we're against Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama, I could definitely see that. And some of the pull-up threes that Kelly was hitting in the qualifiers, he hasn't really hit one, I believe, actually, in this tournament. That could be really disruptive for the French defense. Wemby had some issues against Germany in that very coverage. They had a stretch big coming off the bench, and that player got, I can't remember his name actually, but that player got a lot of open threes out of it. And if he's knocking them down, like Kelly in those qualifiers, he had a game or two where he hit like 2-3 threes. Those could be huge moments of production, right? And then Kem Birch, kind of a small role in this probably, I would imagine. I mean, he's been deployed in a way where in some of those cases where it's like a very physical game, and obviously FIBA is very physical, but in those matchups, he's been brought on to add some additional size. So he's been the backup center. He's had some minutes beside Kelly. Just keep on doing what you're doing, man. Disruptive, tough, tenacious, finishing around the basket. I think in those 5-8 minutes that you potentially get, do that. Okay, so there we are. There's your preview. Shea said, we are here to win gold. We want to go 6-0. Here's your opportunity. Moving to the women's 3x3, okay? They crushed Australia 21-10 in the quarterfinals and will take on world number one, Germany, at least, well, in the tournament, they're number one. Germany, they are 6-1 at the Olympics. So it's going to be a tough one for Canada, but they will play for a medal regardless, right? That's going to be that's good news for them, a great accomplishment. So you can catch that game at 12:30 p.m. ET on Monday, and then they will play for bronze medal or a gold medal later on that afternoon. So it all goes down on Monday, and then for I guess the men's team, Tuesday 12 p.m. ET for the men, they will have that game against France, and then they'll find out who they will play in the semifinal if they indeed make it. If they do lose that quarterfinal, their tournament is indeed over. So there you go. That was long-winded, but I hope you enjoyed it. My name's Amit Mann. Thank you for checking it out. Enjoy the Olympics. Have fun.